Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're getting ready to start very soon. I'm very excited to have all of you, and especially our amazing panelists, Shai and Shabbos, who will be joining us very, very, very shortly. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join. As everybody is joining, just quickly, and wanted to just introduce again Netanya, who is on the call as well. Of course, Shai will get a more formal introduction to everybody very, very soon. I want to introduce Netanya, who is the director of the Nitzavim Fellowship. Netanya, before we get in and start explaining to everybody a little bit about what the Nitzavim Fellowship is about, just wanted to hear from you. You know, what was your highlight last year of the fellowship? And again, we're going to be starting officially in about 2 minutes. So we're just providing a little bit of entertainment. Tanya will tell everybody about their excitement.
Wow, one highlight of last year's Nitzavim, that's pretty tricky, but I'd have to say our end of year showcase. Not sure who's aware and who's not aware, but we have our students run what we call impact projects, which is they have to pick an issue that Jewish students are facing on their respective college campus and create a whole entire business plan. And it's essentially a social startup to conquer that issue. And then at the end of the year, we have the top 5 groups or top 5 projects get up and present Shark Tank style to a panel of judges and to a whole auditorium filled with people. And it was quite amazing to see our students' passion and their hard work and how much effort they've put into it. And it was a lot of fun to see the Shark Tank go down and you know, to see the back and forth between the judges and the students. And it was pretty incredible.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you very, very much, Netanya. I'll just, as we want to give a few more minutes for people to join, we'll give a little bit of my history here. Adi Isaacs, originally from Los Angeles, the founder of both Nitzavim as well as Thrive, where we bring students for Thrive. We bring students from around the U.S. to study abroad in Israel at Hebrew University and Tel Aviv University. I myself have spoken on 35 college campuses and spent a lot of different time at all the different Jewish organizations over the past 12 years, going from college campus to college campus, trying to get as many Jewish students to come to spend the semester here in Israel at both Hebrew University and Tel Aviv University, which led us to then start the Nitzavim Fellowship. But just for those that are joining, I live here in Jerusalem. Currently, I'm spending a day in Herzliya. So yes, myself as well as the rest of my team are up very, very early. Some of us may have gone to sleep. Other of us may just have stayed up and going to sleep after this call. But there's nothing more important than to be joining you and helping put this call together. So I'll give a little bit of information about Nitzavim, because I want to give Shai and Shabbos as much time as possible, because it's important for you to hear from them as the semester is just starting. Nitzavim is a fellowship that we launched a little bit over 2.5 years ago. The idea of Nitzavim Fellowship is the following, and when we launched it, we didn't realize how important it was going to be. But the idea of Nitzavim is that at the end of the day, the most important people on college campuses are students. Students can get so much done. And the idea of Nitzavim is, imagine if we took these students that are coming to Israel. There are so many students that come to Israel for a gap year before going on to college campus. And the fellowship is all about, while students come for a year to be in Israel, to give them leadership training, to give them tools and historical facts so that when they get onto their college campus, they are ready to help make a difference. So we partnered with Hebrew University to create a 3-credit course. Shai, by the way, we invite you to come participate in our course here in Israel. We created a 3-credit course for students to get all this information, to sign up from all different types of their gap year programs coming on Fridays, learning about how to combat anti-Semitism, anti-Israel sentiments, as well as Netanya mentioned before, is that each and every student have to create an impact project, an idea of them to research what is going on the college campuses, and as a students come up with some sort of innovative idea of how to make a difference when they get onto these college campuses. I'm going to play a short video of last year's impact projects, the end of the year showcase that Netanya mentioned.
Students that are super passionate about Judaism and about Israel, going to secular college campuses.
Antisemitism is on the rise, unfortunately, on college campuses, which we've really been seeing. And through JSAFE, we're hoping to keep everyone not just protected, but also connected to each other and make them feel like there's really someone looking out for them.
Our project is called Cooking and Culture. It's a cooking class designed to bring non-affiliated or disconnected Jews closer to the Jewish community.
One small message, something easy that anyone can do. And if this message reaches the right people, and we're betting it does, then those affected people will affect those around them, and those around them, continuing on, spreading not a wave, but Jewish ideas and values across the entire country.
It's amazing. So well-rounded, so ambitious, so important, so purpose-driven.
Through each and every one of you, taking an interest, there is no question that you will make a big difference.
So that's a little bit about the Nitzavim Fellowship. The idea, again, of this Nitzavim is we accepted 80 students to participate in this gap year fellowship. This coming year, we have 100 students that we're going to be accepting as they come to Israel. And we look forward to watching our Nitzavim fellows go onto college campus and make a huge difference this coming year, whether it's Columbia with Shai, whether it's UCLA, whether it's we have students going to over 30 college campuses. So we can't wait for them to make a difference. And now, no further ado, love to already turn the floor over. But before we start, want to again give a big shout out to our partner, the Consulate of Israel and Gal in New York, who also helped make this event happen. So with that, I'd like to introduce Shai, Professor Shai Davidai, who everybody has gotten to know, is an assistant professor in the management division at Columbia Business School in New York City. And since October 7, Professor Davidai has become an extremely passionate advocate and leader for Israel and the Jewish people. We have all been so impressed with everything that you have done, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar for Nitzavim. Thank you so much, Shai, for joining us.
Wow, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I do have to say two things before we start. One, I went to the Hebrew University. I went undergraduate in the Hebrew University. I lived in the dorms, and I had many American friends who were there for a gap year. So, that warms my heart just to think of people going there. And the other thing, I speak a lot, but honestly, the most important person on this panel is Shabbos. If you don't yet know Shabbos, you are missing out. I think every school, every college in North America should have a Shabbos Kestenbaum. And I hope the people on this call and for children, the kids that are going to college, or not kids, the adults that are going to college, or if your kids or your grandkids, I just hope that all of your kids become Shabbos. That's my hope for today.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Shai, for joining. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let's jump into it. Before we start, I feel like everybody does know you at this point in time because you're just an unbelievable person. But could you give a very brief background of who you are, where you come from, and how you ended up in the U.S.?
Yeah, I can give you the details. The biographical details is I was born in Israel. I was born in 1983 in Israel, grew up in Israel. As a kid, I spent a few years in Romania because of my parents' work, but served in the IDF, went to, as I said, undergrad in the Hebrew University. In 2010, my girlfriend at the time and I decided to come to the US to study. I went to Cornell University to get my PhD in psychology. She went to of all places, Columbia University, to get a master's in literature and in writing, creative writing. We ended up getting married. We now have two amazing kids. Today is my daughter's 3rd birthday, which is why I couldn't do this earlier. So thank you for accepting my later time scheduling. I've had a few different jobs in academia, but then 5 years ago joined Columbia Business School. Up until October 7th, I was focused on my work, my children, my wife, my personal life. I was always proudly Jewish and proudly Israeli, but that was a private thing for me. It was never a public thing. October 7th changed everything because it made my identity public, meaning that I could no longer just keep it to myself. I never hid it, but it became part of who I am as a public persona, but B, targeted. And as someone who grew up in Israel and has the Israeli mentality, I could not accept the fact that people will target me and I will not fight back.
Wow.
So that's the very short version of how I got from 1983, born in Herzliya, Kiryat Ono, Yerushalayim, New York City.
It's very impressive that you did such a good job so quickly sharing everything. But Shai, so everybody knows that you became a very, very avid leader for Israel and the Jewish people. Was there something specific that happened to you in Colombia or just in general that all of a sudden made you say, like, okay, I have to speak up right now?
Yeah, look, there's been multiple things that happened. Part of it is mentality. For me, when I saw what was happening on campuses, and I saw that this was no longer, or it's never have been, but I, for the first time, realized this was no longer about politics or ideology. This was about hatred. I had that feeling like a curtain being pulled away, and I can see things clearly. And once I realized this is hate, this isn't politics that you can argue and change people's mind. This is hate, and you have to fight hate. That was one thing that really got to me. Another thing is, I at first felt like this was my miluim. This was my reserve duty. My friends were in Gaza. My brother volunteered for miluim in the intelligence corps, and I am called up to serve my people. Now, my people are Israelis from all different ethnicities and religious affiliations, and the Jews from all over the world. And when you get called up, I can't say that I was happy to get called up. I had an internal struggle. Obviously, it's much more comfortable to live your cocoon life, but I couldn't not heed the call. Which is, by the way, why I called my podcast that started in Shabbos. If you haven't seen the episode of Shabbos, is Here I Am. It's heeding the call, that throughout generations, it comes up in the Torah. It's like that we always, when we get called up, either, I'm not a religious or believer, but if you get called up by God, or if you get called up by a friend, you get called up by your people, you say, here I am. I have to do this.
Wow. It's really amazing, the concept of being able to stand up and hearing that call, and not just hearing the call, but listening to the call. Again, it's two different things, and very amazing to show that.
I'll tell you one thing, Rabbi. For me, it's actually, I'm trying to demystify it, because I think we have a situation in our culture where we believe that the people who speak up have some immense strength or some qualities. But then if you knew me on October 6th, you wouldn't even give me a second look. You'd be like, who is this chump, right? If you followed me throughout these months, you would have seen that I've grown more confident. There's nothing unique about me. And this is why I tell students to speak up, and I tell professors to speak up. We can all be, these paragons of morality, these paragons of speaking up, because there's nothing special about it. The only unique or special thing is the ability to come and say, now's my time. And I believe everyone's time comes up at some point. I just believe that we shouldn't wait any longer.
Okay, that's very, very powerful, and we're going to get back to that a little bit at the end. But even before we get there, wanted to hear from you is that how last year the administration at Columbia, other professors, and then also students, how did they treat you, and what was it like after you started speaking up?
Okay, so let's break it down. Administration, horribly. Just horribly. The administration, and I think wherever you're going to college, it doesn't matter if it's a private university or a public university. I think the last year has proven to us that administrators think of college as a business, and they think of students as customers. And their goal is to get the money in and to reduce the costs. Now, that's depressing, but that's also a reality. And that's the administrators. The administrators have treated me, if not horribly, which is a few of them, then by complete indifference. Then you have, but I don't care about the administrators. I care about the students. The Jewish students have been amazing. I was not aware of what a great community of Jewish students was in existence at Columbia. And I believe that many of them were not aware of it. And something about October 7th pulled all of them together as in a magnetic force, mostly Jewish students, undergraduates and graduate students, then with a few non-Jewish allies that also joined. And they have been extremely supportive of me. Whenever I go up for a protest or rally and I see Jewish students, that gives me it puts the biggest smile on my face. When it comes to professors, it's a case-by-case study. Some professors are incredible. Some professors are horrible. Many professors are just silent. With the incredible professors, some of them are incredible behind the scenes. Some of them are more openly and publicly amazing. My goal for this year is to make more professors speak out, because I know that people like Shabbos have been encouraging students to speak up. And if you've been following the United States and what's been happening, there's been an incredible rise of young Jewish students speaking up. Shabbos Kestenbaum, Eyal Yacobi, Eden Yezdiger, Lishi Baker, Tessa West. I'm blanking. There's so many of them, and now I'm worried that I'm forgetting so many. The students are rising up. They understand what is at stake. It's my goal now to get the professors to speak up so that every student, when you show up on college, you know that there's at least 1, 2, 5, or 10 Jewish Israeli professors who have your back.
Wow. Okay, that sounds like a big undertaking, but if anybody could do it, it is definitely you, Shai. So we're very excited.
If you fail, you got to fail big.
That's right. That's right. Well, and have you seen the administration? And I wouldn't just say, I know that you're very familiar with Columbia, but since you become really the face of professors fighting anti-Semitism, as you mentioned, there's not many of them, but has there been change at Columbia and also at other universities? Because we have students and parents on the call from all different universities that have actually made changes for this upcoming year or are trying to make changes for this upcoming year, or completely not.
So there has been no change at Columbia. The only change that has been at Columbia is for the worse. But we have been seeing some change in some universities. I'm going to highlight 3 different changes, each happening at different university. And my goal, my hope, is that every university pays attention and takes on all these changes. Number 1, there have been a few universities. Brandeis University was at the helm, but then other universities who are either temporarily or permanently banning the organizations that are supporting Hamas, that are sympathizing with the terrorists, that are saying, you have freedom of speech as individuals, but as organizations, you cannot organize hate on campus. So that's the one thing. Another thing, we just saw NYU ruling out a new rule saying that you cannot use the word Zionist in a derogatory way, in a derogatory manner. The idea being that we realize now that the word Zionist is just being used as a synonym for Jew. And if you're going to say, I hate all Zionists, we know what you mean. I hate all Jews. So NYU, kudos to them for taking that on, and I hope other universities will do so. And then the third change, University of Virginia, UVA, just announced that they will not allow masking in protests, masking in public, if not for medical or religious reasons. Again, with the idea that you have free speech, you're allowed to be as horrible a human being as you can. I'm sorry to say that we have horrible college students, but we do. But you're not allowed to mask your face when you do so. So you must identify yourself, so there will be consequences. If you follow End Jew Hatred, which is a Jewish civil rights organization, if you're not following it, you should definitely follow it. They also have fellows around the country in different universities. They are going to start rolling out a petition for every college, every university to what they call unmask the hate, in order to get universities to first remove all masks, keffiyehs, COVID masks, whatever, when you're protesting. I'm sure that will already reduce the flames, because there's a reason why they're masking their faces, because they know they're doing something wrong. And then once we do that, make sure that when you use the word Zionist, we know and you know that you're saying Jew, so we're going to treat that equally. And number three, removing the organizations that are supporting terrorism, that are pushing anti-Semitic rhetoric on campuses. And of course, and I should say, because, if these policies are great, the biggest problem is enforcement. And this is why we need fellows all over the country, that when you're in school and the school has a rule, has a policy, and you don't see it, enforced, then you first have to document it. I always tell people, don't confront. Instead of taking one step forward and confronting someone, take 2 steps back and take out your phone. You're helping the Jewish people much more if you do that. Documenting that, letting the administration know, and letting myself, but also organizations like End Jew Hatred know. Because once the rules are in place, if they don't enforce the rules, then they have a legal problem. So that's kind of like where we're headed this upcoming year.
Oh, okay, thank you. And just before we get to a little bit more practical advice, just personally, I'm sure you've experienced very, very negative sentiments over the past year, but especially over the past week. And the news has been what happened with the imam. How do you feel about that? There's a viral video that just went around of, again, you speaking up and not being quiet. But how do you feel about that? And how do you continue going when you keep on getting all this negativity thrown your direction?
I'll be honest with you, and I think it might help me dispel some myths about me. The day after the video about the imam came out, I was with my wife and kids in Paris for a family wedding. I had a panic attack in the middle of the street. Wow. It dawned on me what this means. I am not some, like Sayeret Matkal, like some big, strong, brave. I'm not King David. I'm not like someone like that. I'm not Samson. Right? But we don't have to be. We're just people, and it does affect me. The question is not whether you get knocked down, and I get knocked down quite a bit, is whether you're able to pick yourself up. For me, it's been community. It's obviously my wife, my kids, my family. That's my closest community, which I rely on, and then my friends and the community that I met throughout this activism in the past 10 months. And I get a lot of strength from that community. And then I'm reminded of every time that there's some hate directed at me, that means that I'm doing something right. Because the imam knows my name, and wants to silence me because he knows, and his followers know that I'm stronger than them. They are scared. You don't try to silence someone who doesn't scare you. You try to silence someone who you think might be, might actually have an impact, an effect. So it's weird and ironic and to say it, but I take it as a bit of a compliment. I'd rather it wasn't that way. I don't need the hate. And there have been times when I felt like maybe I'll go stoop down to their level. I said, no, just because they are hateful, I don't need to be hateful. I don't experience hate. It's not an emotion that I experience often. I just keep going. And I'll tell you this, I saw this incredible 16-year-old yesterday giving a speech at a rally. 16, she was there with her mom. And I took her aside with her mom and I told her, look, her daughter's incredible. She has an amazing voice. She will attract hate. Your goal is to focus her on the love, because all you need to make sure is that you get a good ratio of love to hate. And every time someone on the streets or on social media or sends me an email says like, thank you, or you inspired me to do this, that keeps me going. So I can't control the hate. All I can control is how I react to it.
That's so important, and it really shifts us to the last part of this call, which is, there's a lot of parents that actually asked for us to run this. They said, you're running a fellowship for our kids, but we're actually scared to send our kids to all these different colleges right now. So what advice would you give to a parent that they're sending their child off for freshman year to, whether it is MIT or Columbia or Cornell or UCLA or wherever it is? What can you tell a parent to do to give their child support, show that love and care for them, and also make sure that they feel secure? So what could a parent do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a question I've thought about a lot. I'm lucky, but my kids are still young. And I really, really don't know where my head would be if my son was off to college today. So I get it, not just as a Jew, as an Israeli, as a professor. I get it as a dad. I get that concern. So the first thing that I tell people is arm your kids, not with weapons, not with violence, but arm them with knowledge, which I understand the fellowship does a lot already. Arm them with knowledge, but arm them also with the rhetorical abilities, knowing that they are going in not just to get an education, or maybe that's part of their education, they're going in to an ideological fight, right? Your kids are going to be on college campus, and they are going to, each and every one of them is going to face a decision. Do I lean in to my Jewish identity, or do I lean out of it? And when I say Jewish identity, I am not religious. I am I'm very versed in the Torah, the Talmud, but I don't believe in God, and I'm open about it, but I'm also very, very Jewish and have a very strong affinity toward Jewish people. Whatever your Jewish identity is, you either have to lean in or lean out, because the haters, the other side, will not let you just stand on the fence, right? Sit on the fence. So I want you to encourage your kids to lean in, but also arm them. So I tell people, like, Shabbat dinner, have the arguments that your kids will have with their peers and their professors. Ask your kid to explain why what we're seeing is not a genocide, right? And give them the tough questions. And if they can't answer the tough questions, then you go and you Google it together after Shabbat, on the end of Shabbat, and try to figure out better answers. Why is Israel not an apartheid state? Why do they merit a state of their own? Why do we need Zionism? All these questions are questions that they are going to face. So that's the first thing that I tell people. Arm your kids make it clear to them that they're going into a fight and they need to be ready. The other thing I tell them is the first thing you do when you get to orientation, prod your kids to find their community, your Jewish community and your non-Jewish ally community, but specifically your Jewish community. And that could be Chabad, that could be Hillel, that could be SSI, Students Supporting Israel. And if there isn't a Jewish community, prod your kids to start a Jewish community. All you need is a minyan, not just for prayer, but for a dinner, for watching a movie, start a Jewish movie club, an Israeli movie club, like do something so that when things get tough, you have someone to lean on. But when things are good, you have someone to celebrate with. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, tell your kids that it's okay not to know everything. It's okay to sometimes break down and that you're there for them. When you're 18, like, yes, you're an adult, but this is the first time that you're away from home. It's hard enough without facing anti-Semitism and everything that's happening on campus. I tell parents to think about the 80s and 90s. There was those PSAs. It's 10 o'clock at night. Do you know where your kids are tonight? It was like an anti-drug cookie thing. I tell parents, do the opposite. It's 10 a.m. in the morning. Do you know what class your kid is in? Check in on them. Ask them, have you seen some protests? Have you had any professors that even implied something about Israel? What did you do? They don't have to confront everyone. They don't have to confront every instance, they don't have to counter protest all the time. They get to be college students. They get to party. They get to study. They get to stress about exams. But ask them, get involved in their lives. When I talk with parents of high school students, I tell them get involved in their social media lives as well. With college students, they're already adults in that sense. But with high school students, I tell them, ask them what they're seeing, what kind of content they're seeing. But and another thing you can do is join this organization. I'm not part of this organization, but it's incredible. It's called Mothers Against Campus Antisemitism, MACA. They are all over North America. It's a grassroots organization, 50,000, 60,000 people strong. They monitor things that are happening on campuses, mostly because their kids have either been to that campus, are on that campus, or want to be in that campus. And, it's not up to your kids to fight this alone. It's up to all of us to have each other's back.
Well, those are some very, very powerful words.
Is that a too long answer?
That was very powerful and a great
Okay.
for the students and parents. Just with wrapping up is, the idea of the Nitzavim Fellowship and the movement that we're starting is that students really can make a huge difference if they learn how to stand up. And really, almost every single person has the ability to become a leader. A leader sounds like, as you said, King David or Solomon, but that's not the case. About yourself, you are the story yourself that nobody knew who you were before on October 6th. And now you're really leading major change. So what advice would you give to students who, when they get onto college campus as a freshman, think like, who am I? What am I going to do? How am I going to make a difference? What advice do you give them to empower them to say, hey, without you, nothing can get done?
So first of all, I want to remind people that all the heroes that we think of as heroes were actually regular, normal people. King David was the weakest member of his siblings. His older three brothers were the ones that went out to the war against the Philistines. He was a shepherd staying at home. He was the weakling in the family. He was just smart and dedicated. But what I tell people is who you are is someone who knows right from wrong. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to defend Israel with all, with all the facts. But seeing what happened on October 7th, you know the side that's right and you know the side that's wrong. And just by having that moral clarity, you're already set to be a leader. Now, of course, it's scary to do this on your own. And you don't have to do this on your own. It's way easier to do this with 3, 4, or 5 other people on campus that are with you and to stand there together. And you don't have to start off, like I did, standing in the middle of the quad and shouting. You can roll your way into this. There are sophomore and junior and senior students, there are graduate students, and find the ones that are leading, start working with them, find your voice. Your voice might not be the voice of someone speaking out publicly. Your voice might be a great organizer, someone who's behind the scenes and knows how to put events together. Your voice can be a social media creator, content creator. Your voice can be someone who just debates really well in classrooms. You don't have to be a Shai Davidai, a Shabbos Kestenbaum, an Eden Yadiger. You have to be yourself. And that's an important thing, because the one thing we don't see in these pro-Hamas protests are people being themselves. They're being someone else. So if you're yourself and you're able to strongly, like a rock, be yourself, that to me is the beginning of amazing leadership right there.
Amazing. Well, thank you very, very much, Shai. Just as lastly, we answered a lot of the questions that came in through everything that you were sharing, because you did an amazing job. One important question that came up is, as a parent, are there a list of organizations or things that people can follow that in order for them to know what's going on and make sure that they are giving their kids the support they need? So list of organizations that people could follow, please.
So I already mentioned End Jew Hatred. You can follow them on social media. They also have WhatsApp groups of what they call digital activists, which requires every day, 5-7 minutes of sending letters, petitions. You can also let them know if something's happening on campus. And if they find that that's actionable, they will get their army of 30,000 activists to work on that. So definitely End Jew Hatred. MACA, Mothers Against Campus Antisemitism, I think is an extremely important one. I would say either follow on social media or get in touch with the heads of Chabad and Hillel, whatever campus, and those are more specific, not the international organizations, but the specific ones at your school. And students supporting Israel, SSI, it's becoming bigger and bigger in more universities. That's also SSI, a general national one. Those are I would say, the most important movements to follow on social media, on email. They have newsletters, and it's a two-way street, right? You can get a lot of information, but those organizations are nothing if you don't give them information. I can give you an example. I got an email yesterday from someone who is suing Colorado College for anti-Semitism. Now, Colorado College is a small school, a liberal arts school. I would have never found out about it because it's so far away from me geographically, also social network. But they sent that to me and asked me, could you please amplify it? So I said, of course. So I amplified it on sort of my social media. So now everyone knows Colorado College is being sued for anti-Semitism. And that's the tale for other universities. So like, we don't want to sue you. We want you to do better. If you do better, we won't have to sue you. So I would say these organizations will want you to both be a follower, but also as an active participant.
Amazing. Well, thank you very, very much, Shai. And as you said before, is that you are human and that you even faced this issue, that you had a panic attack when you were on vacation with your family. But nevertheless, you keep on standing up. And as you mentioned, that all parents should do, we want to give you a huge thank you for everything that you're doing on behalf of Israel, everything that you're doing on behalf of the Jewish people. And we should all continue looking up to you watching you, learning from you, and getting the strength from you so that we all can become the leaders that we can be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Shai.
so much. Thank you so much. I'll be honest. I get my strength from you. From like I tell people, don't follow me, stand by my side, and we'll all be stronger. So thank you so much. I was hoping to stay on the call to see Shabbos. I just adore Shabbos. But I have to get off. I want to spend some time with my wife before we go to sleep. So again, thank you so much for
Enjoy.
doing
Well,
this. And for all the
thank you
fellows,
very much, and we will
good
be in
luck.
touch.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you so much to Shai for joining. Just as we are moving on to Shabbos, just want to share a little bit of what else is going on here. We'll share a PDF, 2 PDFs that I can't access right now. I don't want to take away any more time from Shabbos. But one thing is that our partner, Hebrew University, it's very exciting that they have launched a 3-year English BA program starting right now with an incoming class of over 25 people. So going to all the different college campuses is amazing, and that's what Nitzavim is all about, of us empowering, teaching students to go all over the world and to make a difference. But if anybody is thinking of their child or staying in Israel, getting a degree at one of the top, at a top 80 university in the world, so we're very excited that Hebrew U has just launched this degree. Additionally, one of our partners, Ignites, and Ms. Lauren Breslauer and her organization is running a similar call in the coming days. I will send a PDF out to everybody for people that are in the UK. So UK students and parents, there's going to be another amazing call like this that is happening through Ignite, and we're looking forward to sharing it with you as well. Just so we'd like to welcome now, Shabbos. I think we're trying to get Shabbos on the call right now.
Yeah, we're having a technical issue, so stay with me.
Okay, so we're getting Shabbos on the call. Shabbos is on here. We just have to bring him up as a speaker right now. I will introduce Shabbos right now. Or we'll wait one more minute for Shabbos to hopefully get on.
There we go. I've been here since
Okay.
9, and I was listening to Shai,
Great.
and I'll tell you something
Shabbos.
very funny. I'm speaking in Montreal right now. When I ended early, I said I have to do this panel, and Shai is speaking at the exact same shul in Montreal on Monday, and I wanted to yell across the phone, but I wasn't added as a panelist. So I was able to hear Shai, and he's a great guy, and it's great to be here. And as I said, I'm speaking at Shabbos Shemayim. It's a nice big shul here in Montreal. And I told them, I just did a panel, it was a couple hundred people. And I said, guys, I have to leave at 9 o'clock. I have a Zoom panel. So right now I'm in the office of the executive director at Shabbos Shemayim, but Nitzavim comes first. It is great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Shai, Shabbos, amazing. Thank you. You also missed the tremendous adulation you received from Shai, saying that we need more Shabboses and that you're the best. He was on the call. So thank you very much. I know your schedule is very busy, but you're all about students' empowerment. And so thank you very much, Shabbos, for joining. Shabbos, you know what, I don't want to go too much over time. So just maybe give everybody a very brief background about yourself.
Sure. Well, Ben Shapiro told me I talk quickly, so hopefully that'll come as an advantage tonight. I'm come from a proud American Orthodox family. I never saw being an American and being religious as contradictory. On the flip side, they were quite complementary. I went on a gap year for 2 years at H. I lived 2 minutes away from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, or the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Western Wall, and I can tell you as a matter of fact that experience was transformative, and it very much influenced who I am and who I became. I wanted to study religion at Harvard University for reasons that don't make sense anymore, and I certainly don't encourage anyone to do that. But they did give me a full scholarship. Just don't tell Harvard's lawyers that, because we're suing them for full tuition reimbursements, and I don't think they know that I actually am not paying them at the moment. My experience has it's been well documented. I'm not going to get into the details unless you want me to, but I am not an activist. I'm not an advocate. I'm simply a student. I'm a nerd. I'm very good at writing research papers, but I and hundreds of Jewish students across the country and really across the world. I'm here in Canada. I just met with 50 students from Concordia, from McGill, from Dawson. They have been thrust into these positions because the experience of Jewish students on college campuses is unimaginable. It's unthinkable. And had I not experienced it directly, I would almost say unbelievable. And that's why organizations like Nitzavim are so crucial, because it gives students the tools and the ability to go onto college campuses and to be leaders, to have the tools and the ability to stand up for the Jewish people. And that's why I speak anywhere I can to hone in on this message, that it is young people who are leading the charge, young people who are leading the way, and it's young people whose voices we need to amplify. And that's what Rabbi Isaacs does. That's why I'm really, really wanted to make sure that I could come on this call so I could tell, I don't see anyone, but I could tell everyone here that, you know, we have to support these efforts that amplify Jewish students. I'm not saying this because I'm on the payroll. I'm not getting paid for this. Rabbi Isaacs didn't even tell me to say this, but I believe it from my heart of hearts that organizations that, like the one that Rabbi Isaacs run, that take Jewish students, train them to be leaders, instill within them the pride of being Jewish, the confidence of being Jewish, they are absolutely critical in this fight.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Shabbos. We're going to get to that a little bit at the end. But right now, I just wanted to speak to you. It's just nice for us to all hear from you. What was it like speaking and testifying about anti-Semitism that's going on your campus in front of the House Committee of Education and the Workforce in Congress? Now, what was that like? Just give a little bit of that. And of course, the other thing that you now become you gave an amazingly passionate and fiery speech at the Republican National Convention. So what was that like as well, as a good Jewish boy that went gap year?
Yeah, definitely out of my element. So I testified at the Education Committee, the Judiciary Committee, Ways and Means Committee, and every time you don't get used to it because it's incredibly historic. I'm a first-generation American. My dad came here 30 years ago basically to chase the American dream, and he opened a small business that he still operates today, and it was quite moving. I brought him with me during one of my testimonies during one of the hearings, and it was moving, I have to say. I do want to say in terms of the Republican convention, and let me add, I'm bipartisan. I would have gladly spoken at the Democratic convention should they have asked me to, and I actually was at the Democratic convention anyways. So I'll tell you a brief anecdote. On the day of my speech, it was Wednesday morning, the limousine picks me up at my hotel, which is a sentence I never thought I would say. And we go to the convention, and the Secret Service pats us down, and we do what's called a walkthrough. This is the spot you're going to stand on stage. These are the cameras you should look at. This is what your hair and makeup will be. And the producer, a man named Eric, he kept asking me as I was saying over the speech, do you have any questions? And I really said no. I didn't care how I looked like. I didn't care even about the substance of what I was saying. But as I was pulling into my limo, as I was leaving back to the hotel after 2 hours, I said, you know what, Eric, I actually do have one question. Can you promise me that when I give my speech, the cameras can see my kippah? The cameras can see my kippah. Because I know Jewish students who don't wear their kippahs anymore at Harvard, at Columbia, across college campuses. I know Jewish students, friends of mine, who don't wear their Stars of Davids, who have ceased their involvement in Jewish life on campus. And irrespective of the words that I said, and by the way, half of what I said I ad-libbed, I really ignored the teleprompter, which they weren't so happy about. But what was way more important was that I was able to deliver a message that not only can we and should we, but we must wear our kippahs, wear our Jewish pride now more than ever. And that's why I was so honored to speak at the Republican convention, not because it was cool to meet Trump and it was cool to, give talks, but I knew that it was critical that people see that this is an Orthodox Jew who proudly wears his kippah, who bought a bigger kippah after October 7th. And hopefully I will be able, in a very, very small, negligible way, inspire those 2 students who I know at Harvard who don't wear their kippahs anymore to perhaps reconsider.
Wow. Very, very powerful, Shabbos, taking something very big and making it very practical. Thank you very much. Shabbos, since you've been speaking at Congress and at the Republican National Convention and involved with a lot of things, not just on campus, which you're very involved in, but also politically, it seems that you're pretty involved. What are some of the biggest hurdles right now to overcome politically in order to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses?
Sure. So I said in the beginning, I spoke at the Republican convention. It's not a secret. I would have loved to have spoken at the Democratic convention. I try to be as bipartisan as possible. And in fact, Omer Nutra, of course, he's the American Jewish hostage being held in Gaza. His parents spoke at the RNC right after me, and I was able to reconnect with them at the DNC. And we took a picture. One, because I'm in awe of them, but also because I wanted to demonstrate to the greater American society and the American people that returning the American hostages, combating anti-Semitism on college campuses, supporting the bilateral U.S.-Israel relationship, they transcend politics. So look, there are practical policy procedures, that's a mouthful, practical policy procedures that we should and we must implement. So I don't want to get too political, but one candidate, the male, he's been very clear that a university that violates federal law, which Harvard is doing right now, they violated the civil rights of Jewish students. They've infringed upon our protections under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. They should not receive a single dollar in American taxpayer money. Harvard, Columbia, the Ivy Leagues, they receive billions of dollars in federal subsidies every year. And you can't violate federal law while at the same time accepting federal money. So we must make that a bipartisan issue. That should not be controversial. It has been American law for the past 50 years that if you're a foreign student on a foreign visa and you violate American law, you are sent back to your host country. When I lived in Israel in yeshiva, I was on a foreign visa. If I broke Israeli law, I would be sent back to New York. That's not controversial. It's been American law for 50 years. Sally Kornblue, who's the president of MIT, she was asked, you have non-American students at MIT who have physically assaulted Jews. How come you haven't expelled them? And she said, well, we can't expel them because if we expel them, they will be deported. That's a major, major problem. So we need to enforce the laws again, get rid of non-American anti-Semitic law-breaking students. And then another policy procedure, which again, I don't think is particularly partisan, is most colleges already have mandatory Title IX training, where they teach students at Harvard, for example, the dangers of fat phobia, of ableism, of homophobia. They should include anti-Semitism. And it's shocking and it's embarrassing and it's unacceptable that they haven't done that up until this point. So it's a damning indictment on the state of higher education that in order to receive equity, equality, and justice, we have to resort to suing them. I mean, that is abnormal. That is not a healthy sign of a functioning democracy, but I'm incredibly proud of the lawsuit we did file. And I speak to hundreds of students every week. And I encourage them to fight back in whatever way they can. If that means wearing a kippah, great. If it means raising your hand when your professor says something anti-Israel or anti-Semitic, great. If it means filing a lawsuit, great. But everyone has to have skin in the game because we're facing an existential crisis.
Amazing. So you just spoke about skin in the game and how to fight this. So first of all, there's a lot of parents that are on this call right now. This call was started by a Nitzavim parent that said, my child has been given a lot of the tools, but I'm scared for them to go to college campus. How could I help support them? What advice would you give to parents right now that their child is about to go onto college campus or just arrive, how they could help?
Well, my first advice is I think the University of Florida have extended their transfer application. So that's advice number one. But if you insist that they need to go to those places, fine. Advice number one is this. By me, just speak. You've done more than Harvard ever has, which is simply listening to students. I've emailed the Harvard Anti-Semitism Task Force more than 40 times, never got a response. I have asked the dean of Harvard Divinity School for a sit-down, respectful meeting dozens of times, never got a response. I have asked to meet with then President Claudine Gay or now the current president, Alan Garber. I've been rebuffed time and time again. Just listening to Jewish students, hearing their experiences, validating what they're saying, telling them that they have a resource, they have a community that they can fall back on is crucial. So supporting your students in that way, supporting your kids in that way, supporting your congregants in that way, it's obvious and it sounds almost silly, but it's really important. The second thing I would suggest is there are resources out there. I am part of it's funny, I'm part of a WhatsApp group of dozens of Jewish students across the country who are suing their universities. Now, obviously, that's an extreme way of fighting back, but there are students from across college campuses who might experience very similar things that your child might be experiencing. So know that you're not doing this alone and reach out to those communities. I can tell you, and I'm happy to, even though this is being recorded, reach out to me. My email is shabboskestenbaum@gmail.com. It's an easy email. I want to be a resource. I want to help. Please use me if you think I can help. But don't be intimidated or embarrassed to ask for that help. And then the third thing is, we talk about validation. We talk about systems of support. And the third thing is recognizing that being part of a Jewish community is I don't say important because that's putting it mildly. It's crucial. Your child needs to be part of Jewish life on campus. It could be the Chabad, it could be the OUJLIC.
Yep. We just lost Shabbos.
He fell off.
We'll work on trying to get Shabbos back for a few more questions. But I'll give a summary as Gavriel and Netanya work on getting Shabbos back. All those participants that have been here right now. So there's been a lot that's been discussed so far by Shabbos and Shai about what we can do going on college campuses. Again, there is a lot of negative that is happening on college campuses. But at the same time, what we teach about Nitzavim Fellowship is that we can make a huge difference for Israel and the Jewish world. And not only that, it's not that we can, we need to make a big difference. Because without each and every one of the students, and without each and every one of you as a parent helping your child, who knows what Israel and the Jewish people will look like in a couple of years. And the question is how to do that. Number one, as we're still working on getting Shabbos on, Shabbos is mentioned. Shabbos, please reach out to Gavriel and Netanya to get you back on. Now, as has been mentioned by both Shabbos and Shai, is that there are a few very important things that students need. Is number one, students and parents, a very strong community. This is the most important thing. We have on our different programs, by Nitzavim and on Thrive, we have different students that participate, that we reach out to, alumni, students that have a very strong Jewish community. They're part of the Hillel, they're part of the Chabad, they're part of the JLIC. Those students they experience anti-Semitism on college campuses, but they never really feel very threatened because they have the love and the support of a community. Students that don't have that Jewish community, they feel a lot more alone. And therefore, the importance of encouraging your child to make sure they find multiple Jewish and Israel communities on college campus it cannot continue to say how important it is. That's number one. Number two is information. The more information that you have, again, Gavriel, and please reach out to Shabbos, he's trying to get back on. The more information that you have, that you're able to give to your child, or that your child can find, whether through its all different types of programs, and we will send a list of recommendations of different things up. We have Shabbos back. Okay.
Yeah,
Shabbos.
sorry about that. I meant to do end and accept, but sorry, I meant to end it. I clicked the wrong thing. But I heard what you were just saying, and that was going to be my third thing. They have to be involved in Jewish life on campus, whether that's the Chabad, whether that's the OUJLIC, whether it's the Hillel, whatever it is. They have to have a community of support because it's bad out there. I mean, I can give you a laundry list of incidents that happened at Harvard alone. I could tell you about, the student who was spat on for wearing a kippah at Harvard, the student who was physically assaulted at Harvard Business School, the Israeli student who was asked to leave class because her nationality made others uncomfortable. I could tell you about the staff member who challenged me to debate him as to whether Jews were behind 9/11 and then threatened me with a machete. I had that private armed security outside my house. I mean, these are real things. Hopefully your students don't go through these experiences. I'd like to think these experiences are outliers and they're not common, but it's so critical that you have a support system on the campus itself. Again, that could look like many things. It could even be informal. I know that with Nitzavim, they make these projects, they have these great ideas with students. It can be that, a couple of friends, or it can be something bigger like a Chabad or whatever. But there needs to be some form of institution or some form of organized community on their campus. So those three things, validation, I'm forgetting the second one, and what we just said now.
Amazing. Shabbos, two more questions for you that we need to hear your answers to. Is number one, there's been a lot of negativity of what's going on college campuses, but there's also been some amazing things that have happened that have been outcomes of this negativity. Could you share, as a parent, again, that is nervous about their child, but what this also presents as an opportunity for students to grow up and to really take on a lot more, maybe in an uncomfortable situations. How can this be an even more positive experience in this challenging time for a student and for a parent to see that?
Sure. I mean, we all know the great line by Charles Dickens: "It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times." You don't need me to tell you it's the worst of times, but through that, it has been the best of times. At Harvard Chabad alone, we've had record numbers. I mean, there's so many people. We have to clear out the second floor because on a Friday night, it's just too many people, which is a great problem to have. And while I did mention I wanted to make sure the RNC cameras could see my keyboard because of those two students, there are also, for every two of those students, there's 20 who are wearing bigger kippahs, and they're wearing their Stars of David, and they're saying, "Look, I'm not so religious, but I'm going to say one chapter from the book of Psalms for a hostage every night." I mean, those are incredible, incredible things. And after October 7th, and again, my story at this point is kind of public. I'm happy to get into it in more details. Invite me to the community. I'm happy to speak more. But after October 7th, I had said in the forward that it was better for my mental health to be in an active war zone in the Middle East than to spend one more day at Harvard University. And I spent the first 3 weeks of the war in Israel digging graves for soldiers who were killed in Gaza, singing, playing guitar for injured civilians in hospitals. And they said, "Please, we suffered enough," because I don't have a very good voice. Delivering supplies to army bases, because I've never felt more connected to the land of Israel. I've never felt more connected to the people of Israel. And perhaps most importantly, I've never felt more assured and confident and proud of my Jewish values. And to publicly showcase that, to showcase those Jewish values in sharp contrast with our ideological adversaries was just so moving and gratifying. And I can tell you, there are lots and lots and lots of Jewish students who are in similar positions, who their religious identity pre-October 7th, or their attachment to the land of Israel, or their knowledge of Jewish values was limited. But after October 7th, there has been a resurgence of interest and enthusiasm to stand up and be counted as part of the Jewish people. And I think college campuses are the petri dish, are the best example of that. You are seeing young people in a difficult, challenging environment who are really, really rising to the occasion.
Amazing. Well, Shabbos, you've touched on this, but I want to ask you again point blank. You were just a typical Jewish kid, came to Eish Gesher, went to college campus, ended up in Harvard, and now fighting the government and Harvard. And by the way, I like your vest that you're wearing as well, sporting the Harvard as well. But at the same time, you weren't the person that you've become right now. You weren't that person a year ago. And Nitzavim is all about realizing that every single person has leadership potential, and leadership potential means something different for every single person. But how, if you have a message to send to all of these students and their parents, how does somebody channel what they're capable of and stand up right now to do as much as they can? What advice would you give?
Sure. I mean, first, I'll sort of just echo the sentiments you just shared. Israel is fighting our enemies, air, sea, and land. And you can't see, but I'm like 5 feet. I'm barely 100 pounds. The IDF does not want me, I promise. What I can do is contribute to the ideological battle. I can fight in the halls of Congress. I can fight in academia. I could fight in the classrooms. I could fight on social media. I could fight in the business world. I can do those things. And whatever your child has in terms of talents and capacities, use those to fight back and join us, because we're outnumbered and we're outgunned. That goes without saying. And yes, I'm not an activist. I'm not an advocate. I like to joke that I'm a professional complainer. I'm very good at being in school and doing my research, but this was sort of thrust upon me, and I'm still navigating this weird world. But the advice that I would tell Jewish students, it's very simple. You've done nothing wrong. You have nothing to apologize for. You have no one to apologize to. On the contrary, your values and your voice is needed now more than ever. The world needs Jewish values. The world needs our shared sense of morality. And I've spoken at many places and places that aren't Jewish. I spoke at the Christians United for Israel. I spoke in front of a crowd of 10,000 Christian Zionists and who love the land of Israel. And I've said, we are praying for the hostages. We are praying for Jewish students on college campuses. And I'm not particularly intelligent or articulate or brave. I'm just someone who was, had this thrust upon them. And it was so moving to be in that environment. And if I can do it, then certainly your child, who is far more intelligent, articulate, and brave than I, will be a lot more successful. But the main thing is to realize you have nothing to apologize for. Your voice is needed now more than ever.
Well, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate you joining, even at your crazy schedule. And it's so important for you to continue speaking to students, to parents, and spreading this message far and wide. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm sorry for the technical details, but thank you for everything you're doing. It really, it's appreciated. And for all the parents out there, your kids should get to know Rabbi Isaacs. So thank you. Take care.
Amazing. So just in summary, again, we want to thank Shabbos and Shai and every one of you. In Nitzavim, we believe that if students are going to be going to college campuses, they can make a difference in a way that nobody else can. You as parents can also help make a difference in a way that nobody else can. And if your child finds a strong community, encourage them to find that community, the Hillel, the Chabad, the SSI, the APAC. If they associate strongly, they will feel a sense of identity, a sense of pride, a sense of mission, and therefore they will feel safe and secure. Even when there's a protest, they'll go somewhere and really feel comfortable. In order for them to be as successful as possible, gather as much information as they can, know as many organizations that you can continue to gather this information from, and most importantly, as a parent, make sure to give your child love, support, and validation. I know I'm going to be traveling around from the college campus to college campuses here, visiting our alumni, visiting our students, and giving them that love and support in person. We hope and pray that through all of our leadership, both as students and as parents, that we will make a difference for Israel and the Jewish people, and hopefully see the end of everything that is happening here. The hostages should be returned, and ultimately we will all be back in Jerusalem celebrating the Mashiach together. Thank you very much, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.